You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, December 24th, Christmas Eve show. I am dedicated to you, my listener, providing you with tools needed to make informed decisions on matters regarding your money. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but you can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com to ask any questions for the guests that I have in studio, or if you'd like to chat with me, your host. Right now in studio, Erik Tinglum with Skyline Property Trident Realty Group Northwest. And we're going to be talking about the South End market. Once again, Erik, you are my South End guy and come into studio quite often to share with my listeners everything that's happening out in that market. So thank you again for joining me on our Christmas Eve show.
Well, thanks for having me, Tina. It's always a joy to be here.
Of course. A little bit about Erik. Erik has 25 years in the industry and president of Trident Realty Group Northwest with a team of 5 agents and in the top 3% in transaction volume in Pierce County. Retired USAF and reserve with over 37 years of service. Former high school football coach spanning the last 20 years. 75% of Erik's business is working with both retired vets and active duty military and around the Puget Sound. And when we talk about conversation today, Erik, we're going to talk a little bit about how much that that market really means, or that buyer really means to you. And I just want to say thank you up front for everything that you're doing for our veterans.
Well, it's actually a blessing to give back.
Yes. And again, I want to talk about that as I wrap up my time with you. But let's start out, Erik, with what's happening right now in your market, in the South End market.
Sure. Well, as always, Tina, we are about a year behind King County.
Yes.
And we know that King County this past year had about a 17.7%, not King, I'm sorry, but Seattle proper. 17.7 increase in value in King. And basically the word gentrification comes to mind because the middle class is being priced out of Seattle.
Yes.
It's just a fact. I mean, if you bought your house in Wallingford or Ballard and you bought it in, say, 78, 82, and you're retiring from Boeing, and we just heard the other day what Boeing's getting rid of upwards of 7,000 or 8,000 employees, which is going to be a big hit for the 777 program. So what happens, where do they go if they want to stay in the Northwest and, they've got the grandkids and the kids? Well, they move to the outlying counties, Snohomish, Kitsap, Pierce, Thurston. And so we've seen a huge increase in our market for people actually having been displaced from King County.
Yeah.
So we do see.
So you're getting the overflow that's coming that can't afford it and then coming down to the South End.
Well, and what they're doing, they're trading price for commute.
Yeah. I was just going to say, how are they dealing with the commute?
Well, I wouldn't do it, but candidly, do you want to buy a home or do you not?
Yes.
And if you're looking at 1,500 square feet in Green Lake at $780,000, versus that same home for $275. The Sounder looks fairly attractive.
Exactly. So, Erik, what about the huge pent-up selling and buying demand?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because we've got buyers the phone just keeps on ringing. And part of it you're very much part of, and that's the recent bump in interest rates where the Fed, Janet Yellen had said, and finally, she no longer cried wolf.
Yeah.
I mean, they bumped it a quarter point, but as you know, it was already built in with a slight increase, and then when she actually made the announcement, there was yet another quarter point.
Yes.
So now I've been saying, I told you so, I told you so. Forewarned is forearmed.
Yeah.
No call to action. Everybody's sitting, and now they're going, oh, wait a minute. I just lost about 17, 18% of my buying power.
Yes, which is going to continue in 2017. And, I talked about this last week in my money chat, Eric, with the just kind of in the feds and what they're doing and how prime is, mortgage rates are not directly to prime. And it's kind of like the Fed's responsibility is to keep everything to where it should be, manage inflation. And we want to have everything perfect. The reality of it's never is. So it's a balancing act to try to figure that out. And so testing the market to see what consumers are, how they're going to react to what the feds are planning on doing is a big thing. And so all of that talk about increasing prime or increasing the Fed's fund rate, which is going to affect the prime and the interest rate to cost to borrow everything else outside of your long-term investments like mortgages, is the reaction for the stock market was crazy. So they had to pull back and go, this isn't right. So what's happening now is, and we saw the stock market didn't really react. So it was everybody is feeling this is a good time to start building back up in our retirement fund so we can start getting that money back, and also putting us in a position to where we've got a safe place for when we have another meltdown or another financial issue, because we will. Prime has to have somewhere to go. They've got to be able to stimulate that market again. Well,
you just used the word safe, and I've been saying for some time now that, 95% of reality is perception.
It is.
And I think two things happened to us this last year. This presidential race was so incredibly vitriolic. I don't think that anybody stood to win. And I don't mean to get too political here, but there was a lot of passion out there, and the new administration hopefully will bring some stability or anything, just as long as we've moved forward.
Yep.
Having said that, when you take a look at the pent up buying demand that there's been for past 4 or 5 years, and we have had a lack of step up buyers, it's going to be real interesting to see what happens in the next 4 to 6 months, because I do see some optimism, and it is truly a buyer's market. And the sellers who have been sitting on the sideline. Matter of fact, I pulled the stats just before I came to the show, and Pierce County has 2,447 homes that are active on the market. 2,047 compared to the peak of 7,700. So you can see we're 300% low in our inventory. In the past 30 days, we've sold 1,237 homes, so we have an inventory of 1.65 months. So now, if it's clearly a seller's market. If nothing else came on the market, 1.65.
Yes.
Comparatively, King County only has 1.12 months.
Yep.
I mean, if it's good, it's gone.
Yep.
If you're sleeping on it, you're not sleeping in it.
Yeah. Interesting. So, Eric, I want to get back on with the Fed getting serious about raising rates. How do you feel? I mean, we know how the consumers are reacting now, or at least when it comes to consumer confidence based on what's happening in the stock market, which is a big indicator, and nothing's going crazy. So everybody's. How do you feel that consumers are going to be reacting in 2017 with the continuation, the Fed increase? How do you think this is going to affect the real estate market? Well,
it all depends upon if you're a millennial and you don't have the same frame of reference that me, a grandpa, has.
Okay.
I mean, I remember rates, and I know you were a veritable child, but 14, 15, 16%. And if you were to go to your mother and father, a millennial, and say, Mom, oh my gosh, I'm in at 4.5.
Yes.
They would say, hallelujah.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to take that and run. And I'm a fair market guy. I mean, a free market guy, I'm sorry. I really don't believe in manipulating the market. I believe it needs to float wherever it floats based upon supply and demand. And you still have to sell those mortgage-backed securities.
Exactly.
I don't think the government should be in the mortgage buying business, but that's another aside.
A whole nother show and a whole nother
We're going to have to just adjust our paradigm.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. So new administration promises to end sequestration and rebuild our military. And in the Puget Sound region, what will that mean for housing in the South End?
Well, it's absolutely huge. And a lot of people would have a tendency to think that active duty Army Air Force at JBLM is our largest employer in Pierce County, or our largest source of income, is the largest employer, but it's not the largest source of income. Actually, it's the retired military. So the Northwest in general is very, very, very dependent. Bremerton, Bangor, Everett, JBLM, just going on and on. So if in fact there is either the allaying of sequestration or rebuilding the military, for every one soldier or sailor that appears on a base or a fort or whatever, there are 3 jobs that are potentially affected, either positively or negatively. Yeah. So there's quite an effect of those dollars and those people that are here.
Got it. So I want to talk about your team and how you want to put your money where your mouth is, and supporting 3 to 4 nonprofits that support the vets from the proceeds for each one of your transactions that you are involved in. Can you share that with my listeners, Erik?
Sure. I'm retired Air Force. My career spanned over 38 years, and I'm a Vietnam vet, so I know what it's like to come back to a nation that was less than gracious to those of us that fought in Vietnam. Having said that, then to see what's happened in a very unpopular war in both Iraq and Afghanistan, and to see our vets returning, it's a much better world to which they return. But there's a organization called Operation Mend that we are going to start partnering with. If you go to operationmend.ucla.edu, you can get to their website. And when a soldier comes back, burn up, busted up, broken up, basically you get him on his 2 feet and get him out the door. That doesn't mean his lips are there or his ears have returned or he can close his eyes. They actually, for absolutely $0, will take one of our terribly damaged, disfigured vets. And if you go to their website and you take a look at the overlay of picture after picture after picture, and see that that man or that woman is returned to at least some semblance of normalcy, it's incredible. Yeah. It's incredible. So we've decided that, especially given this last election period, if you're going to have passion about who gets in, then you might want to have passion, take those energies and make it constructive. So a portion of our proceeds, commissions, are going to go to, at the direction of the buyer or the seller. Yeah. We're going to give them the option.
Well, and I know your mission statement, no enterprise can exist for itself alone. It ministers to some great cause, some great need. Failing therein, it ceases to be profitable and ceases to exist. Calvin
Coolidge. Yeah.
Coolidge. And so that's great, Erik. Again, I appreciate your time coming into to studio and sharing what's happening in your market. And shout out for my listeners on what they should be doing right now if in the new year they're thinking about purchasing real estate.
Well, if you're thinking about purchasing, I just said, if you're thinking, if you're sleeping on it, you're not sleeping in it. And if it's good, it's gone. The reality is you've got to be prepared. You've got to be fully underwritten. You've got to have a pre-approval letter, not a pre-qualification. You have to have thought through quite a bit of the process, and then just be prepared. Find a professional realtor or broker that has a proven track record, and make sure they're willing to put their skin in the game. Yeah. It's not a matter of just sending you listings. I mean, are they really committed and listening, to what you need, what you want? Yeah. And again, you're not going to have quite the choice that you may have had 7, 8, 9 years ago. So you're going to have to work on some things called flexibility as well.
Yeah. Great advice.
If having a home is in your future.
Well, it sounds like whether you're buying in the South End or over on the East Side, because Sandy's going to be mirroring some of the conversation that I'm having here with you right now. In any market, the advice is what it is in being successful, just a little bit different tweaks, which we'll talk about. So, Erik, thank you again for coming in, and you're sticking around because we're going to have a panel conversation with you and Sandy at our last segment. So, coming up next on the Money Hour, what's happening in multiple offers on the East Side, Sandy Tampa with Windermere Real Estate, right here on 1150 AM KKNW after the short break.